Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy, the Mad Guy, going up here today with another episode of To Stream or Not to Stream. It's where I talk about a bunch of different streaming services that are available here in the UK and of course other countries around the world. But there's no point me talking about streaming services that aren't accessible to you guys here in the UK like myself. And today I'm going to be talking about another dedicated streaming service, one dedicated to anime, and that is Crunchyroll. Now, just a little bit of a brief history with anime in the UK. Well, for a long time, if you enjoyed anime, it was quite hard to really watch anime in the UK. I remember when I was younger, I used to watch a lot of these animes on the internet, essentially through like third party streaming websites that weren't, I wouldn't really say they're legit websites, the ones I'm on about. But of course, those websites still exist. But the only problem with those sort of things is it's not they're not reliable, unfortunately, because it's all is it legal, is it not legal, I don't know. It's one of them touchy subjects, a bit like emulation, it's a loophole essentially. But I don't know about all of that. But Crunchyroll is one of the few animated streaming services that is dedicated just to anime. There's also Funimation. However, I believe Funimation has actually sort of combined with Crunchyroll. I feel like a lot of Crunchyroll, I think, brought Funimation, and I believe that Funimation still exists and you can still use Funimation, but I believe that a lot of the big stuff that was on Funimation has been, is getting moved over to Crunchyroll. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I'm sure if you guys know what I'm talking about, you could probably tell me more on the subject. But I digress. If you're an anime fan, anime does exist on other streaming services like Netflix and Amazon Prime, and even Disney, I believe, have just branched out into getting some anime as well. Bleach, I believe, has just been moved to Disney. Disney now own the rights to Bleach. And there is talk about Dragon Ball being brought out by Disney as well, which, I mean, I'm going to be pretty pissed if they put Dragon Ball on Disney, but at the same time, I know that if they put it on Disney, it's going to be censored to fuck, so I'm glad that I've got the physical versions. Of course, anime is something that a lot of people love. Of course, otakus, as one might call them. Anime is, a lot of people say anime is just animation, it's cartoons. Well, yeah, it is and it isn't, essentially. I keep thinking my camera's moving. It is and it isn't, essentially. Anime can refer to, I think anime refers to a style of fucking stupid fucking phone. Just fucking stay still. You can never fucking get things to sit still. I think anime refers to a style of animation, I believe, because, of course it originated from Japan. Anime is essentially manga, but animated, on the TV. But enough about anime. Let's talk about Crunchyroll. So what is Crunchyroll? Is it worth your time and money, and what's available on it? So Crunchyroll, I believe, is they've changed it up now. I believe it is a free app, and you can get a free subscription for Crunchyroll. I believe if you have Crunchyroll, you can use it for free. But I believe like there's ads or something like that. I believe there's probably ads in there. But it's $5.99 a month now for the mega tier thing. So obviously, I believe because before it had different tiers. One where you could just stream and watch stuff, but then they added a separate tier where you could download the episodes and get some extras and simulcast and things like that. But So it's essentially $5.99 a month now. I believe it's set at $5.99 a month, or it's like $59.99 for a year, which I think is a fairly decent price. It's cheaper than most of the big subscription services out there, and I think it's a good price. What's on what do you actually get in that subscription? So of course you get tons and tons of anime, and 9 times out of 10 they're streaming in HD, which is great. A lot of these animes that maybe only receive DVD treatments and things like that are now streamable in up to 1080p, which I think is great. You know, and it is available on all systems, you know, consoles, PS4, Xbox, Amazon Fire Stick, smart TVs, Roku devices, and of course Android and iOS. So it is one of them. It is the standard stuff with that. So you do get your good choices from it. One thing I really like about it is the way that the presentation of it is done really well. It's quite good with its recommendations as well. Like many of these algorithm-based streaming services, they recommend things based on what you've been watching. So if you've been watching something like Mobile Suit Gundam, then it's obviously going to recommend you shows, maybe other shows in the Gundam universe, or shows that have, you know, giant robots. It is great the way that they organise it, and you can add things to your list. I don't think there's any limit on what you can add to your list. It updates quite frequently, I noticed. The only problem I have with it is it's kind of hard sometimes to see what new shows have been added. There's no, like, there is a recently updated area, but there isn't like a recently added area. You can find it. It's quite simple. You just go into the browse. And the browse feature, I think, is great because you can browse everything by genre, different types of genre. Of course, if you're looking for, you know, sci-fi based animes, you can find sci-fi ones. If you're looking for, you know, the shonen animes, of course, you can find them, romance and so forth. It also does have, for some reason, in there's also something I've noticed in the settings. It says show mature content, and I think what that relates to is some shows and stuff on the uncensored version, which is great. So I think what that means is, obviously there's a lots of animes out there that are very child friendly and great for kids, but there's also, you know, some animes that perhaps, you know, younger audiences probably won't be you know, interested in, things like Another and you know, Berserk and stuff like that, you know, those violent animes, and maybe some animes with some nudity and things like that. But there is a great selection, and I really like the browse feature because it lets you sort things alphabetically, newest, oldest, you know, popularity, what's popular. And I think the Crunchyroll actually, I think when they get released in Japan, Crunchyroll gets it either the same day or a couple of days after it gets released in Japan. So I think Crunchyroll is the quickest service in terms of stuff that has anime on it, that actually get the newest episodes quite quickly as well, which I think is great. But it's also, you don't just have anime on here. They've got obviously anime TV shows. Apparently you can find manga on Crunchyroll. I haven't come across it, but you can. I've seen like manga, animated manga, like, which is basically manga, but that's animated slightly. It also has some like podcasts and things like that, and some live action fan-based Crunchyroll fan-based stuff on there if you're into that. And it also has some live action animes as well, stuffed animes and movies as well that have been adapted into live actions as well, which I think is great, you know. So it is a very, very positive place to find your stuff. If you're into anime, you can't go wrong with it. Yes, it has a bunch of the big popular names, of course, your One Piece. It did have Bleach, but that's been moved. Of course, Naruto's on there, Gundam. So a lot of the big names are on Crunchyroll, but it also has a ton of lesser known anime titles. So whether you're into Gundam or Attack on Titan and stuff like that, but it also has a great sense of old and new stuff as well. You know, lots of new shows that perhaps probably would never get physical releases in the UK, or if they do get physical releases for anime. I don't collect physical anime with the exception of Dragon Ball. It's mainly because Dragon Ball is the one big series that is missing from Crunchyroll, but Dragon Ball Super is on Crunchyroll. I believe it was a Crunchyroll exclusive, and I know it has been released physical as well. But I digress. So I really enjoy that, that it has a good sense of old and new stuff as well. And there's always something on there for everyone. You're going to find tons of different animes. Animes that have maybe 6 to 12 episodes, and then animes that have hundreds of episodes. You know, Bleach, One Piece. Well, I keep saying Bleach, but you know what I mean. One Piece, you know, shows that have had thousands of episodes and still going to this day. Like I said, if they added Dragon Ball, I'd be quite happy with that. But I've got the physical version now, so you know. But I digress. So what are some of the issues that I've had that you might encounter with Crunchyroll? A while ago, I admit it's been a while since it did it. I was having streaming issues with it, often buffering issues as well. And it was on my phone, which is very weird because I don't really get a lot of streaming issues on my phone, especially when I'm downstairs because I'm right by the internet. But when I've watched it on the TV, it's been fine 9 times out of 10. But the good news is, what I tend to do is actually download the episode, which I don't tend to do that a lot of times. I most of the time I stream, but with Crunchyroll I tend to download the episodes, just because the last time I was trying to stream it, it was being issues as well. But like I said, maybe there was just some issues at the time that have maybe been patched and fixed since then. I don't know. You know, these things happen with streaming services, unfortunately. But I digress. You know, I think the layout is fantastic. It's easy to find what you want to find on there. The selection is fantastic. I think overall there's probably about, I don't quote me on this, but there's probably at least over 600, maybe 700 different animes on there, which when you think about it, you go, oh, there's not that many compared to, like, you know, Netflix or Amazon Prime, which has thousands of movies and shows. But when you think about it, it's all dedicated to anime, and some of those animes have hundreds of episodes. That's a lot of streaming time. I will say it does do some basic features that other streaming services use, like the play next episode autoplay, although sometimes it doesn't do it all the time. I've had to exit and load the next episode up, but it's not a massive issue for me. Like I said, I've watched some great stuff on Crunchyroll, and of course it does have exclusives as well, Crunchyroll exclusives, so if you're into those sort of things. And now, like I said, they update quite frequently, actually. I think maybe a couple of times a week they're adding new episodes and new shows as well, which I think is great. The only issue I have with it, it's not actually Crunchyroll's fault, it's the app that I use, Just Watch, which normally is for updating stuff. They haven't fixed it. Crunchyroll's not showing up on Just Watch. I don't know why it's not doing that anymore, but I digress. I think Crunchyroll is to me, it's a definite 2 stream. I'd probably give it like maybe a 8.5 to a 9 out of 10. I haven't used Funimation. Oh, and the biggest thing I actually forgot to say is it dubbing or is it subbed? Both. A lot of the time with the big name brands, it will have a dubbed version, so the English version. So for things like My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, those sort of things, it will have a standalone version that says dubbed. And then obviously a lot of the time stuff is subtitled. So me personally, I watch anime subtitled. I prefer to watch anime as it's intended in Japanese, with the exception of 2 animes that I watch in English. Number 1 being Dragon Ball, and number 2 would be Pokemon. Not that I've watched Pokemon. They're the only 2 animes that I'd watch in English, mainly because it's what I grew up with, and obviously, especially Pokemon. I believe in Japan, a lot of Pokemon have different names, and because obviously I grew up with the Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, you know, when I was younger, and of course playing video games, I grown up with those voice actors and know the characters. 9 times out of 10, the English voice dubbing is pretty terrible compared to the Japanese voices, especially in a lot of animes. But there are some good ones out there, of course, Dragon Ball being one of the few exceptions. The same with Pokemon being one of the few exceptions that have great English voice acting. Mainly because these were animes that were shown on years ago, back on like Cartoon Network and Jetix and things like that, and Fox Network. We had them growing up. They used to be on the old TV channels here in the UK years ago. I mean, I'm talking about maybe 20 plus years ago. So I grew up with that. But if you are someone that doesn't really watch anime in English, I'd say that I believe Funimation has more dubbed stuff. I believe I think that a lot of people said that Funimation has a much more dubbed selection, is more dub friendly, whereas Crunchyroll has more subtitled stuff. It depends on what you prefer. I personally prefer dubbed. I believe that's the way forward. 9 times out of 10, like I said, if a movie or TV show is in English or the original language, I'm going to watch it in the original language it was released in. If it's got subtitles, it's no excuse. If you can read, you can watch a movie or TV show in subtitles. It's not hard to do. Maybe with some shows where there's a lot of stuff going on and games when there's a lot of stuff going on the screen, maybe it can be a bit awkward to look up and down, but I digress. So Crunchyroll, like I said, I think it's a great streaming service. I think it's if you're gonna choose an anime streaming service, there's not many out there. Crunchyroll, of course, is the big one, and I think they do their job very well. Like I said, I've had a few issues here and there, but it was easily remedied just by downloading the episodes on your phone. Of course, TV and consoles, you can't really do that, but it's not an issue for me. And like I said, I think the quality is good. Again, maybe there's some, try and find out if, what's going on there. But all in all, I think the price is great, and of course, the layout is really good. Easy to find what you want on there. All in all, I think Crunchyroll is a great streaming service. Anime friendly, guys. So as always, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, feel free to leave a like, and of course comment below. Let me know, do you use Crunchyroll or Funimation? Which one do you prefer? Let me know your favorite anime and your favorite anime character. For me, my favorite anime would it's hard to choose because I want to say Dragon Ball Z, but I haven't watched it all the way through. So I'd say it's probably my favorite anime that I like follow and stuff like that because of all the games and stuff. But I'm quite partial to Gundam and stuff because I've played games of them. But I did enjoy like the Dot Hack series as well. Let me know what animes you're currently watching. The shows I've recently watched on Crunchyroll was Zozo Zombie, which was a funny little kids one, and also at the moment, I've still got to go back and finish it, but I've been watching one called Yuna's Mystery Dungeon Inn or something like that. I can't remember. It's like Yuna's Hot Spring, Haunted Hot Spring, I believe that's what it's called. And of course, probably my favourite character from any anime is got to be Vegeta. I've always had a soft spot for Vegeta. But I also like Char Aznable from Gundam as well. And of course, who doesn't love Ash from Pokemon? But as always, guys, subscribe if you haven't already. I've still got a few more streaming services to go through and talk about. And as always, guys, have a nice day. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Mad Tiger, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and bye bye.